Stewart, I'm a home inspector in Southern Oregon. All the time. One of the main purposes of a home is to shed and remove moisture from a home. If you think about all the systems in it and the structure itself, from the roof, the siding, the HVAC system, it all kind of boils down to removing moisture, and at some point all of those elements and systems fail to a certain degree, so there's no shortage of areas where you can find moisture problems, whether it's to a small degree or major problems. But finding those, whether they're minor or major, the minor ones can turn into major issues. So constantly looking for just small amounts of moisture getting into the home or not being removed, as well as major amounts of moisture that are in the home, and trying to figure out where those are coming from and who the home buyers need to talk to remedy those issues. Step one is usually just a visual inspection. I can go around and see a lot of them. Based on experience, I know some typical areas to look. I use a few different tools. I'll use a moisture meter. I'll use a thermal camera. Just going through there, I usually double check myself if I see an issue that shows up on a thermal camera I didn't see with my eyes. Double check that with the moisture meter. I like to just kind of say, hey, is this an anomaly that, a thermal camera sometimes will just show a reflection of something, that's coming from a register, and it's cold air coming out of there and isn't necessarily moisture coming. So when I see something show up on a thermal camera, I'm going to go back there and say, hey, is this actually moisture, or was this just cold air being reflected over there? I'll use moisture meter at like a base of a door where I've seen drainage issues. A lot of times won't see it like outside of a shower. I'll use a moisture meter down there just to check, because I know typically water gets splashed out in those areas. Anytime I see a little bit of deteriorated wood, sometimes wood gets worn and you're used to seeing that, but you may not necessarily think that it's got moisture issues in there. So it's always a good idea to throw a meter up there and see exactly, is a wood rot, and you want to check the moisture content in that to see if it's a little more serious than just your average deterioration. Sometimes I also use it where in an attic space where I've seen stains that might be related to ventilation issues, possible biological growth, and I want to say, hey, is this staining from a previous issue, or is there moisture content up there now? And that would indicate that this is a current issue going on. Sometimes that's a little tricky. Sometimes that means crawling into those areas or lugging a ladder around into those places, which is a little problematic. Being a home inspector, one of the things that you're really trying to do is respect other people's property, because you're a guest in their home. So if I see a stain that's on somebody's ceiling in the living room and I need to use a ladder, like I said, I'm a guest in their home, so I don't really want to be lugging a ladder around and setting it up on their floor if I don't have to, where I might chip their floor or knock over their Fabergé egg collection or something, or break something. So if I can use an extender to reach that, that's very beneficial to me. And not only that, they're saving the risk of breaking some of their possessions, it also saves my back. So that's nice. Like I said, with attic spaces where you see staining, a lot of times that's in a small area of the eaves where it's hard to get to. In an attic space, there's not a lot of areas to walk, so that's generally in a low area where it's hard to get to, and crawling in there can be a little risky, and there's a risk of falling through somebody's ceiling. So having an extender that can reach in those low spaces is very beneficial, and one, saves a lot of time, also minimizes the risk of falling through a ceiling, and might give me an accurate reading where before I might have to say I just see staining there, and I recommend it gets tested, and this just gives me a more accurate description where I can say, hey, I saw staining there, I was able to test it, and there was either moisture there so it looks like an active stain, or there was no moisture on the staining and it appears to be previous staining. I like this a lot. I think this is a lot easier to use, like I said, than lugging around a ladder. This is much lighter, just way easier to maneuver around a house and reach places, and I think it'll just help me get to a lot of other areas, and not only reaching up but just reaching down as far as bending behind somewhere, and not only having to lug a ladder down, but reaching in areas that some houses are not the most hygienic as well. So perhaps reaching behind a toilet that hasn't been cleaned in a while, where I can just kind of set this down at the baseboards and get an accurate reading there, see if water stains from a plumbing leak were recent or if they're old, and not have to put my face next to a dirty toilet. That makes my day a little bit better, so I definitely like this.